The alien wanted to complain to the people in the exhibition hall. He couldn't believe that they let him get married overnight. He felt that the practice was unprecedented and had mixed and bitter feelings as he progressed on the campaign trail, unable to disclose his new alliance to the public. He hopes it doesn't come out. What would the Empire think about him if it did? He had a deep gut feeling it would not be good if they did. He knew that they would not understand that he might have feelings for a mere mortal, and might think he was the recipient of some hoax at most, and deceived in the very least. That a chicken could possibly conduct such social design. He needed to be patient if he was to recover. He needed to make a plan. He needed to be sure to have a logical and practical plan if he and the boy were ever to return from where they had come. He decided that it would be best to take the northern route in hopes of avoiding fewer obstacles. So he embarked on his journey, sailing far over the mountains. Fighting a head wind, he knew it would be fatal if he could not get enough height to clear the mountains. Somewhere beyond the boundary of physics, he was able to break through the ceiling of the clouds. After he had cleared the mountains, he dropped down a bit so he could see the terrain below. He followed the river he could barely see, thinking it would lead him closer to the town where he had met the woman. He hoped the Empire would not show its anger, take a stance, and fight. He hoped they would take into account his position and not base their decision solely on rules. Pounding heartbeats tried to escape his chest as he spotted the sheep in the distance. He had not eaten since his journey began, and flying took its toll on his reserves. Excitedly, he angled his wings downward, swooping in and exchanging the sheep for a golden coin. Flying with a sheep would be difficult, so he needed to move as inconspicuously as possible for fear that the owner would not have found the gold coin and would have been concerned that he was stealing the sheep. He traveled a ways before finding a cottage, where he was able to exchange the sheep for a butcher's already cut-up sheep. Oh, how the taste worked its way deep into his alien brain. The pressure that frequently started in his neck was relieved as the nourishment flowed through his veins. He took the time to gather his thoughts before going on his way. Tossing a piece of meat from his teeth, he overheard some poetry being read nearby. He wanted to have it repeated, but feared they would question why it was there in the first place. He decided to shrink back from where the poet was speaking, only to find a beautiful pool of water near the cottage. He was drawn to it and ended up swimming a few laps in it before going on with his quest. After his senses were done being violated from the jaw-dropping crystal-clear water and his mind came back to focus, he thought he remembered seeing a sparkling little human at the bottom of the lake. What a twist to the tale he would tell others if he could be brave enough to solve the mystery of the sparkling little human at the bottom of the lake. The consequences could be mind-blowing. So he set off into town to seek the elderly advice of the local shaman. He found the shaman sitting at a table outside, pouring a tablespoon of honey into his milk. Before he could plead with the shaken for some advice and overall influence the shaken might have over the villagers, he saw something emerging from the crack in the wall. As he crept closer, he had the notion that it was dancing and wished he could continue watching. Closer and closer he got until his eye was right up close to the outside of the crack. and to his surprise, he was sucked inside of the crack and was falling down a well. He fully expected that his life would end once he got to the bottom of the well, but to his surprise, the impact did not kill him. When he got up, he had an understanding when he saw the extremely developed crop of weeds that he must be at the boundary of another realm. What was he to do now? As he contemplated this thought, he heard what began as a quiet whisper get louder and louder. He also felt the ground beneath him start to quiver and tremble until it got more and more aggressive. A bunch of animals began to scatter as the earthquake continued for a few more minutes. He didn't want to find out what thing was big enough to cause the earth to shake and roar that loudly. It sounded angry and heading his way, so he ducked down and entered the tunnel that the other animals were running through. About halfway through the tunnel, he could feel something in the air change and somehow just knew he had left his old realm behind. On one hand, he felt relieved that the problems he had been experiencing were behind him in the old realm. He also felt anxious about what he might experience in the world ahead. It didn't take long before he made it through the tunnel. When he did, he realized he was back home on his very own planet, and all that he had been experiencing had been a bad dream. He was so happy that he was back with his family again. For a fleeting moment, he was at peace, laying there on his comfy bed, until a giant bear crashed through his window, making him scream. But it turns out he just wanted a cup of sugar.